Hey, good morning, Drew. How are you doing?
Good, good, good. How are you, buddy?
Oh, I'm hanging in there. I hope you had a great week.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. No, good week. A lot of good challenges, a lot of good things overcame, and yeah, I hope you did too.
Yeah, it was. It was busy. Starting to get a little colder out. Come November, we got a new puppy in the house. That's keeping us on our toes. But
Yeah,
really glad to get together with you this weekend. To talk about this book. Love 2.0 by Barbara Frederickson. I think it's pretty
yeah,
powerful, and I'm really glad that both of us took the time to read it, and then let's compare notes and maybe generate some value for our viewers on some of the great points that this author has put out there about love. I think it's a good reframing of really what love is as the supreme emotion in everybody's daily life and what it can be. There's great potential there that I think people are overlooking.
yeah. No, I found this book to be really insightful, and initially I wasn't sold on it, but the deeper I got into the book, I realized that she was hitting on some key things that, as I look back on my life, I could see absolutely that footprint of how love, positive resonance, um, having really good connections with people helped me to become emotionally resilient and make it through some hard times.
Yeah, and
So
I,
I hope
I
that we could talk about that today.
yeah, no, that's awesome. I liked her definition of love. Where she said, "Hey, don't just take love as the relationship you have with your siblings or your brothers, or your kids or your wife or your partner, whatever the case may be." She said that really the definition of love should hinge on positive resonance, and
Yeah,
she broke the positive resonance into three things.
yeah,
To share a positive emotion with somebody, to almost have
yeah,
like behavioral symphony, she called it, and that's where
yeah,
it's a mutual exchange of even like
hmm,
mannerisms and eye contact, and it's
hmm,
like that physical connection,
yeah,
because she says we're wired to do that as humans. And then the third
yeah,
thing is to share the mutual care for somebody. And I'll be honest with
yeah,
you, the people that I've encountered in my life, and let's say a good example of successful humans in this world are general officers in militaries, and some of the best generals that I look back and admire and sort of try to idealize. I want to be like them, whether they're
yeah,
foreign generals like in the Philippines or in Pakistan, or American generals. They had the ability to generate positive resonance with the people that are
yeah,
around them, and I think that
yeah,
that empowers an organization and empowers people to do to serve the mission, be part of a bigger team, etc. So that's my big takeaway. It really it rekindled me in how I'm going to approach love in my life with my
yeah,
close ones like you, but also in my workplace. Going forward, I think there's great value in how she's defined that.
yeah. No, no, that's really good, man. I think to be a leader in any capacity, whether you're in the military or whether you're here in prison or you're in a corporation or you're leading your family, wherever you are in life, I think it really hinges on your ability to develop and cultivate positive resonance. And when I look back on my life and when my life restarted, and I say restarted because it started again in prison. I
Yep.
had to rebuild everything about that I was.
Yep.
And a lot of what I've been able to become in the last 22 years was really contingent upon the relationships that I made and maintained. And in those relationships was a lot of positive resonance. Now, I have a couple notes. And she said this. She said, people that are open to positive resonance become more emotionally resilient. And I thought about that. When you have a lot of positive relationships going on, where there's a lot of truth and transparency, there's trust, there's a giving and sharing of information,
Yeah.
you become more emotionally resilient in every facet of life. And the other one is now now having those positive experiences combined with a resilient heart that can navigate negative terrain in life equals growing wisdom.
Yep.
And when you have positive, when you have healthy relationships, when you have healthy friendships in your life, and it takes discernment and it takes wisdom to really make and maintain those types of relationships. So you have to really go into it with a good understanding of who you are, who these people are, and what you want to accomplish. But when you have those positive relationships in your life, and you learn to navigate the terrain in life, negative terrain, you get wisdom.
Yeah, no, I think that's pretty good. And and wisdom is, maybe that's that refined judgment on determining, what to think, what things mean and what to do. It goes
Yeah,
back to that little, 3-part series, that we've
yeah,
been talking about in the past, that we got
yeah.
from what's his name? I forgot.
Eric Greitens?
No, the California guy. Um, he's the one that came up with what to think, what things mean, and what actions to take.
Oh, Tony Robbins.
Tony Robbins, yeah. So I
Yeah,
think that's where what you're talking about is that's what you got to refine, and the wisdom. I think this is so number one. We like breaking things out into trinities, right? Try to distill it down into something that can be remembered, but try to get out the gist of what is love 2.0. Number one was the idea of positive resonance, but number two, which you were just handling or talking about, is the importance of transcending negativity and the negative aspects of life. I like calling this challenge the norms. Don't
yeah,
get caught up in the outrage news. Don't get caught up and
right,
hung up on anger or fear or
right,
resentment or self-absorption. You get too carried away with
right,
yourself, right? And if you can
right.
identify and acknowledge those, and then yet, they say the brain can only think about one thing at a time, right? If you focus on love and creating positive resonance with others, because you're having that mutual exchange of mutual care, you're caring about
Yeah,
somebody besides yourself. That's the essence of life. That's why she calls that the supreme emotion. And then that
yeah,
puts you on the path towards fulfillment, deep relationships, which is like the bedrock of love, and then joy. And so I
yeah,
don't get caught up in the rat race of life. Don't get carried away with your to-do lists. Don't get distracted by social media and the crazy news that's going on today.
yeah,
Spend your
yeah,
time and invest it in these micro moments of love, because then that's going to
yeah.
really build your life to be fulfilled and rewarding and whatnot.
Well, it's not only going to make you have a better life, but it's going to make you live a longer life.
Yeah.
It's funny that you brought up the negative news thing because I was watching some negative cable news yesterday, and I can even feel my heart rate getting caught up in the
Yep.
drama of whatever they're talking about, us versus them. We read a book years ago by Mark Manson, and it was the subtle art of not giving
Yep.
a what.
Yep.
And and basically his thought was you can only care about so many things at one moment in time in your life. What is worth caring about right now?
Yep.
A lot of times our most important relationships go unthought about because we're stressing out and worrying about things that really aren't going to add great value to our life.
Yep.
And we take that away from the relationships that are going to add value to our life. And
Yeah.
so you have to be okay to live a loving life. You have to be very discerning about what you allow to hold your attention.
Yep.
You
Yep.
know, there's a quote here that says by Thomas Merton. It says, "You are made in the image of what you desire. How you think and what you do determines what you become." And that couldn't be any more true in my life because the way I thought, right in the 1990s, it sounds so long ago. The way I
Yeah.
thought in the 90s,
Old man.
Right, right. There's all the gray in my beard. So anyway, so how I was thinking in the 90s, and then what I did, the actions I took, determined what I became. Okay, likewise, when I came to prison, God changed my heart, but I began to think differently. And
Yeah.
because I thought differently, my actions were differently, I became differently. And a lot of times, I want to be a more loving person, but I think about stress, or I told you last week, I said, I could be having an argument inside my head before I even get to work. I've already had two or three arguments
Yeah.
that haven't even really occurred,
Yep.
you know. And so when I get there, my frustration meter is already maxed out.
Yeah.
And so I'm becoming a frustrated version of myself rather than the loving version of myself. And it comes down to what am I meditating on?
Yeah.
What am I allowing to be a priority in my life? And sometimes I have to tell myself, you know, what I'm dealing with right now, it really doesn't matter. And so I could take my emotion out of it, and I could take that energy and start focusing on loving relationships. And my last point right now is one of her keys to do that is mindful meditation,
Yep.
which is changing the station up here and start and practicing thinking loving thoughts towards people, because at the end of the day, me and all these guys behind me right now, we're all dealing with the same pressures, same stresses, same constraints.
Yeah. And you can, your time can be so much more meaningful if you're in an environment where you're supporting each other and connecting and you know, having that resonance, which really is love.
Yeah,
It's almost like a brotherhood, right?
yeah,
And I think that's powerful. Yeah. So number one was the definition of positive resonance, being the new reframing of
yeah,
love. Number two, you got to challenge the norms. Societal
yeah.
norms is not teaching you to invest in love. There's so many
Right.
gazillion definitions out there, but if you can really
Yeah,
focus on it, that can make a difference. So the third thing, which you were starting to get towards, I think that it really encapsulates this book, is you need to design your life, and you can do that through the loving kindness meditations that she talked about, that you just mentioned. Where you're thinking about how you're gonna engage and support and interact, and you visualize these positive
yeah,
engagements with the people that you want to connect with.
yeah,
But also, she had the challenge in there that, hey, every day try to have a micro moment of a
yeah,
positive resonance,
yeah,
3 times, right? 3 different people, and that's a great, fantastic goal, because it's almost like creating the snowball at the top of the hill, and you keep on packing on more snow, it's going to start building momentum, and then next thing you know, you're going to be in an
yeah,
environment that's going to be mutually reinforcing. And then
yeah,
and what I really liked was creating that narrative. What is your narrative of life going to be? What are you choosing to think about? What are you saying things mean? And then what are you doing? It all is interconnected. And the really cool thing that I thought that we got out of it is, she said that it actually makes a physical difference. Your vagus
mm,
nerve, to your brain, to your
yeah,
heart, that is trainable. And as that nerve gets more connected, it goes from your brain to your heart, then your actually heart rate performance is like it will improve, and that is like the best indicator for longevity.
yeah,
And it's like, are you kidding me?
yeah,
It's like the hidden muscle.
yeah,
Why aren't we teaching people that? It's crazy.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. She said love's biochemistry. The big three of love's biochemistry is your brain, the hormone oxytocin,
Yeah.
and then the vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve is that 10th cranial nerve deep in your brain that runs directly and connects to your heart, your lungs, and other major organs. So, and it's a combination of these three that give you, and that really determines, you know, someone that's stressed out, chronically worrying, is not going to live as long of a life, a full life, a healthy life, is somebody that is in a healthy relationship, has a healthy vagal tone, has a good vagus nerve in their head,
Yeah, yeah,
and you're right. And, she says this, she says, love is more than an emotional response to positive resonance. It's a practice.
yeah,
And just like I went and worked out last night, you know, um, I also need to work out and exercise my ability to give and receive love. And that's really going to determine, what quality of life I live. And she said down here, you pay attention to your inner dialogue. That's an important thing for me. I need to pay attention to the narrative that I'm creating in my head about my life. And
yep,
what are you telling yourself about your life? And that's really driving your heart, your lungs, your emotions, the energy you have or don't have.
yep.
So I really like this book. And in a second, I'm going to give you my big three that I got out of this.
Okay, so I
But
sort of already walked through mine, right?
okay,
The positive resonance, challenge the societal norms, and design your life. But when you were talking earlier, a couple things popped in my head. You talked about the importance of managing your attention. It's almost like having that ability to observe yourself from a third party. What are you focusing on?
yeah,
And I've always wondered, like, okay, what are my personal resources? My personal resources are, how much savings do I have? What is my network of relationships and family? I only have so much time in this life. But now I think you highlighted another key. It's not just having the time. It's what are you, attending to? What are you focusing on? That's almost
yeah,
like, in that time is, so much of your life you're on autopilot. That's like a critical
yeah,
resource is where you putting that time. So to me, that was pretty cool.
yeah,
Revelation that you made me think of. But
yeah.
all right, so I'm interested
You
in hearing
can't
your
make
three.
time.
What?
You can't make time. You can only take it.
Yep. Shape it.
One thing I've learned from being in prison is that time doesn't wait for any of us. It
Yeah.
keeps pushing.
Yep.
And it's finite. It can't be renewed. I can't go buy more of it.
Yep.
All I can do is make the most of what I have.
Yep.
That's why we're sentenced to time.
Yep.
That's why we're all doing time.
Yep.
And all of us in life, even though I'm in prison and I'm doing time, everybody listening and watching right now, you're also experiencing time going by in your life.
Yep.
And how we use it is important, and what version of myself in it. Because I constantly want to be a better version of myself, not just for my own life, but for the people that are around me.
Yeah.
And so it's important to pay attention to inner dialogue, practicing self-compassion, having empathy for others. If you can't be compassionate towards yourself, you're never going to be able to be compassionate towards others. So sometimes you need to learn how to it's like, if you can't take care of yourself, how are you going to take care of your neighbor?
Yeah. So when you say take care, what does that entail?
Well, I think being able to connect and help that person in whatever way you can, be that sometimes it's a conversation. In here it could be a cup of coffee, a conversation, some time together, maybe working out together,
Yep.
um,
No, when you say
going to eat.
yeah, no, I think that's pretty good. No, what about when you say you got to be compassionate with yourself? What does that mean?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
You got to be able to forgive yourself and move on,
Yeah.
and give yourself the opportunity to do something better in the present and in the future. Because, especially for us in here, if you overly hold on to every mistake you made in the past, you never get free enough to live in your future.
Yep.
If you're constantly beating yourself up,
Yep.
and so there's a balance to that, because I'm going to tell you right now, humility is a key thing to being able to live a loving life. So I don't forget the tragic mistakes that I made, but
Yeah.
I keep it in perspective so that it doesn't tear me apart to the point where I'm of no use
Yeah.
going forward.
Yep.
But I remember the mistakes I made. So one, I don't ever repeat them.
Yep.
And two, that it keeps a bedrock of humility in my life.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to tell you, these are my three. Number one, models. It's important of what you're aiming at. You are what you admire. To keep loving models. And that could be found in a religious faith, which I think a lot of times is for most people. But a lot of times people will remember the 50, 60-year marriage of their grandparents as a model of love,
Yep.
something for them to aim at.
It's almost
Or maybe
ideals.
came across somebody. Correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What do you? What is your ideal?
Yeah.
Or role models. That you're aspiring to and working towards.
Yeah. So models,
Okay.
humility, and availability. Because if you're not available, what impact can you have? And that's an important thing. If you want to have better relationships in your life, you have to be intentional with the time you take to have them. You have to have time for love's impact.
Yeah.
So availability is a key thing.
Yeah. I think that's pretty cool, and I think that you know what, availability. I think it's almost like a nexus of both. Where are you spending your attention and being
Yeah.
humble at the same time, right? That
Yeah.
you're opening up and truly connecting and listening to somebody. Because if
Yeah.
that, I think it's a nexus of both of those, which I think is pretty cool. Being available, I like that idea of availability because I think it transcends the humility too. But
Yeah.
no, that's pretty good. And
Yeah.
it,
And the humility thing kind of goes with, having gratitude. Gratitude is such a key thing too. I
yeah,
mean, when you approach a friendship or relationship with the spirit of gratitude, that I'm really grateful that you're in my life, that I'm having together right now, that enriches every conversation. That enriches every moment.
yep,
I don't know. I've been through periods of my life where I felt like I just didn't stop and take the time to be present in whatever conversation or whatever moment I was having.
yep,
And every moment I was just trying to get to the next moment.
yep,
And believe it or not, every prisoner, we want to be out. We want to be through this phase in our life.
yeah,
We want to complete our sentence and get back to life, which I understand. I do too. I've been here for 22 years.
yeah,
But if, but, but the quality of my future is going to be determined by my focus in the present.
yep,
So I've had to use these 22 years, or these guys 22 months, whatever they're doing.
yep,
And there's guys 20, 30, 40 years behind mine. That the time you take, the attention you give in the present determines the quality of your future. And that could be conversations, interactions,
yeah,
things, people you're coming across. You could become just where you're just blowing through life, just getting through it to get to the next destination and not becoming a better, more conscious, aware version of yourself.
yeah. One of my favorite quotes, and I don't know who came up with it, but I think it's a great mantra: is thrive, not just survive. Right? And
Yeah.
so, how are you learning and growing and, spending your time, right now? Doesn't matter where you're at, whether you're in the jungle in the Philippines, on a little military camp or in a prison
Yeah.
or sitting here in my office in the middle of Kansas,
Yeah.
am I investing in my ability to thrive? And it doesn't matter if you're,
Yeah.
you know, an old man 50 years like me or 70, you can continue
Yeah.
to thrive until you turn to dust, and so yeah, I think that's a
Yeah.
great mentality to have because it really takes you to, you know, to your potential. And I
Yeah.
really liked the concept you said there of being available. So I think that's pretty cool. I might that might make me reframe mine. I think the positive resonance still has to be one, just because that's her definition of love.
Yeah.
So for a key takeaway, but then I would
Yeah.
say being available, and maybe that could even be knocks out my hey, challenge the norms or challenge societal norms, because that means if you're available, that means you are challenging what's
Yeah.
going on in society. And then I think the aspect of, hey, you know design your life. And then
Yeah.
and that relates to your idea of the models. What are your ideals that you're shooting for? So
Yeah.
that's pretty good.
Yeah. There's a thought that you need to recognize. We all need to recognize it, and I'm really talking to not just you, but the people that are just with us right now. That you are one of the waves crashing on the shores of life, and the impact that you make helps shape that shore. And I really got to where I am by some key friendships, key people that came into my life decades ago, and they're gone now. They got released. Some got clemency, some got paroled, and they moved on.
Yep.
And I have to remember that now I have the responsibility of being the key relationship to some of these people behind me on a daily basis. And so it's that aspect of social responsibility is that I want to shoot this out to the people that are with us right now and say, where is love and positive resonance in your life? And where does that need to be improved? Where are you allowing yourself to be impacted and then also to make an impact?
Yep.
And really figure out where your vagal tone, where's your health at emotionally, spiritually. So
I wonder. I would love to be ask the author, what she thinks about, like pets and the unconditional love of dogs. Because it's
yeah,
almost like there's a resonance. We have a new
yeah,
puppy in the house, and so there's like a
okay,
positive resonance. When you're petting that
yeah,
dog, and she's
yeah,
wiggling her tail like there's no tomorrow. But
yeah,
it's also a great. Some people don't connect with pets, and it's like, okay, is that an indicator of where you're at with your vagal tone and
yeah.
your positive resonance in life, or so I'd be interested in seeing. I need to send her an email and say, what do you think about puppy
Yeah,
love?
let's do that. Let's contact her.
Yeah,
It's a proven fact that having a pet reduces your depression.
yeah.
It's that connection, interaction.
Well, they have all therapy dogs, or pets, all the time now, and you can get accommodations to even like take pets on the airplane and stuff,
Yeah.
for because it is.
Your comfort creature.
I can't remember what they call them, therapy dogs. That's what they call them.
Yeah,
So,
therapy dog.
but there's something there, because it
Yeah.
is that unconditional love that pets give, and
Yeah.
it's a good behavior to practice even with a pet,
So
so you can do it with other
so look,
people.
man, we're just about out of time, man. I love you, brother. This is a good conversation. I also want to thank people for tuning in. And I want to just invite you to keep coming back or tell somebody else about it. And if you have a question or something you'd like us to discuss and kind of iron out here, go ahead and just use that comment section, and Eric will try to get to that, and we'll talk about that. But
Yep.
I want to thank you guys for subscribing and coming to listen to what we're talking about. And I hope it's making a difference in your life.
Yeah. Well, Drew, it's always awesome to talk to you, and I
Yeah,
can't
buddy.
wait until we can do it, face to face and not over this little
Yeah.
camera screen.
Soon and very soon.
Hey, I love you. Have a great week.
Love you too, buddy. You too, man.
Bye.
All right. Go Hawks.